In this short presentation, I'd like to tell the story of our survival software. I'm going to talk really about the internal forces that are so powerful and so important in controlling behavior. To start with, I want to tell you about Stephanie. I first saw her when she was 21 years old and at university studying European languages. She was uncommunicative, her eyes avoided contact with mine, and her face was expressionless. She didn't talk. In fact, her mother narrated her medical history. She'd been fit and well until about 18 months previously. And during her first year at university, she'd been really socially engaged, popular, played hockey for her halls of residence, acted in her college dramatic society productions, and her tutors had graded her academic progress as excellent. Her descent into ill health had been dramatic, unexpected, and clearly devastating. She developed progressive fatigue, cold feelings, muscle weakness, episodic vomiting, severe constipation and weight loss. And by the time she was referred to my clinic, she had already been assessed by an array of specialists. And also, she'd undergone almost every investigation modern medicine could deploy. None of these had succeeded in detecting any organ damage to explain her devastating complex of symptoms. She'd also been assessed by a psychiatrist who thought it highly unlikely that she had an eating disorder as a cause for her array of physical symptoms. The healthcare professionals were lost, and more important, so was Stephanie. So I propose to take you on a journey that explores the powerful innate physiological forces that influence our behavior. Not only will we seek to explain Stephanie's ill health, but perhaps also gain a little understanding of why a little over a year ago we all rushed off to fill our supermarket trolleys with toilet paper, and you'll remember we cleared the shelves of pasta, flour, tin fluid, and of course Dettol. Now, to set the scene, I'd like you to focus on this weaver bird. Now, watch this little bird at work. Remarkably, this bird had not been to college to learn architecture, twig selection, or weaving, and with no education, this tiny bird with a tiny bird brain had picked the tree, selected a branch, sought the building materials, and designed the shape of its nest. Now explain that. Well, perhaps just like your computer, the bird's hardware, meaning its beak, muscles, heart, lungs, and digestive tract, would be pretty useless without a program that could shape its creativity. Our feathered friend must be hardwired with an instruction manual that directs its flight path to and from the tree, selects the appropriate twigs and grasses, and supervises the construction work which is required to weave an incredibly complex structure. Without recourse to an architect or structural engineer, this little bird designed and built a safe haven to consort with its partner, lay eggs, and then rear and protect its vulnerable fledglings. Without an inborn, hardwired biological instruction manual, there'd be no safe nesting place, no hatchlings, and inevitably no survival of the family. So what about us humans? This is a picture taken minutes after birth and shows the newborn, unschooled in nutrition and without any instruction, immediately being able to find the breast, latching powerfully to the nipple, and taking on fuel. With its first suck, the neonate demonstrates complete mastery of the complex action of finding the nipple and then, for the first time, coordinating sucking, swallowing, and breathing. In summary, at the time of conception, all life forms appear to be preloaded with an instruction manual containing all the coding required for its survival. First and foremost is the instruction to eat. But not only that, the program must also inform the organism whether it's destined to be a carnivore, a herbivore, or an omnivore, and instruct it on how to browse, chew the cud, suck, graze, or rip flesh and muscle from bone. The preloaded suite of survival programs must include an instruction manual which implores it to seek and occupy and defend a place of safety. Consider this. Without a self-shater, no life form can sleep, eat and digest, establish intimacy, reproduce, nurture the next generation, or express creativity. We all require a safe shelter. This instinct to seek safety is a survival imperative. We need to know in our neighborhood who is dependable and trustworthy, and who is suspicious, and what perils lie in wait beyond the safety of our neighborhood boundary. Indeed, from the day of birth, our sense organs continuously scan for signals of environmental danger. This is called exteroception. Our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, touch organs, and all the external organs feed a stream of information to the brain, but a biological spam filter admits less than 1% to our consciousness. So that takes care of external surveillance. But what about scanning our inside for danger of signals? Well, a remarkable nerve called the vagus nerve provides inner surveillance. Note how its branches impinge on every organ in the chest and the abdomen. This unique nerve bundle acts as an information superhighway which triggers and transmits data to and from the brain, informing us of our state of well-being. This is known as interoception. Below consciousness, and with almost no latency, this incessant flow of information is processed by the brain and designated as safe or threatening. If the signals are reported as safe, the scene is set to support well-being and life-affirming activities. Unsafe signals instantly prepares us for flight or flight. This instinct is present from the very, very earliest stage of life, and even in the toddler this can be demonstrated. In this next clip, observe the toddler's involuntary and instantaneous reaction to an incoming threat. A little cruel, but these toddlers had not been taught to recognize and respond to danger signals, but from very early in their lives are pre-programmed to recognize threat and react with primitive flight responses. Imagine yourself cycling up a hill, reaching the summit, and seeing below a steep path plunging towards the valley. Your bicycle is primed to hurtle down this path. But with your hands on the brake, you can control the speed of descent. Full on, the brake will bring you to a stop, but by regulating the pressure on the brake, you should be able to negotiate a safe and comfortable descent. Well, unbeknown to us, the brain, via the vagus nerve, applies a biological brake to our always loaded, always ready fight or flight response. This control is known as the vagus brake. If brain surveillance signals safety, the brake is fully engaged, while stress and danger rapidly releases the brake, allowing the lightning-fast fight or flight response to emerge. As the danger recedes, brain messaging recalibrates, instructing the vagus nerve and the vagus brake to readjust and reach for safety. Safety also depends on trusting those around you. We need to constantly scan our neighbors and moment to moment evaluate signals that convey accord, goodwill, affection, and good neighborliness, or signs of mistrust, uncertainty, or disruptive intent. Facial expression conveys powerful messages and is thought to play a key role in rapidly assessing friend from foe. Looking at these emojis, you'll notice that from the simplest of facial representations, you'll immediately recognize a range of emotions. And in fact, there's evidence that from infancy, we are highly adept at evaluating facial cues that differentiate friend from foe. Now let's watch the next clip.
Babies this young are extremely responsive to the emotions and the reactivity and the social interaction that they get from the world around them. This is something that we started studying 30, 40 years ago, when people didn't think that infants could engage in social interaction. In the still face experiment, what the mother did was she sits down and she's playing with her baby who's about a year of age.
I'm like a girl. Oh.
And she gives a greeting to the baby gives a greeting back to her.
Yeah.
This baby starts pointing at different places in the world, and the mother's trying to engage her and play with her. They're working to coordinate their emotions and their intentions, what they want to do in the world. And that's really what the baby is used to. And then we ask the mother to not respond to the baby. The baby very quickly picks up on this, and then she uses all of her abilities to try and get the mother back. She smiles at the mother. She points because she's used to the mother looking where she points. The baby puts both hands up in front of her and says, "What's happening here?" She makes that screechy sound at the mother, like, "Come on, why aren't we doing this?" Even in this 2 minutes, when they don't get the normal reaction, they react with negative emotions, they turn away, they feel the stress of it, they actually may lose control of their posture because of the stress that they're experiencing.
Okay. I'm here. And what are you doing? Oh, yes. Oh, what a big girl.
It's a little like the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good is that normal stuff that goes on, that we all do with our kids. The bad is when something bad happens, but the infant can overcome it. After all, when you stop the still face, the mother and the baby start to play again. The ugly is when you don't give the child any chance to get back to the good. There's no reparation, and they're stuck in that really ugly situation.
To summarize, cues of safety and trust engages the vagus brake, and this facilitates cooperation, social connection, creativity, romance, and reproduction. While cues of danger and mistrust quickly disengages the brake, disrupting social engagement and releasing the high-energy fight or flight survival response. But the story doesn't end there. What happens if fight or flight fails to re-establish a safe sanctuary? This question troubled Professor Stephen Porges, who's a developmental neurobiologist and professor of psychiatry at the University of North Carolina. He was intrigued by the observation that reptiles, from whom we descended, do not possess a fight or flight response. When threatened, these cold-blooded animals cannot explode into action, fight, or run away. In fact, when danger lurks, reptiles remain stock still and downregulate their vital functions. Their heart rate slows, bowel movement stops, their muscles freeze, and the threatened wrinkle snake or frog feigns death, hoping that the predator will lose interest. This response is known as thanatos. Porges has demonstrated persistence of this reptilian response in the deep recesses of the mammalian brain. A mouse confronted by a predator cat will first call on its fight or flight response. But if no escape is possible, unwittingly and without choice, the mouse is programmed to call on this ancient reptilian survival strategy. The animal lies still, its organ system slow, and thanatos emerges. It hopes that the cat will lose interest in old dead meat. So to summarize, from birth, all life forms are preloaded with body-brain software able to monitor levels of danger and safety, trust and mistrust. That instruction set is indelible. And as you sit there this evening or this afternoon, without conscious awareness, your information superhighway is constantly monitoring your personal state of safety or danger. You have to ask, are these ancient behaviors appropriate for modern living? Might the ancient survival software suite, locked in at conception and handed down by our evolutionary ancestors, be very maladapted to dealing with the anxieties, fears, and complexities of modern contemporary life and the modern jungle that we live in? Our fast brain responses are designed to distinguish safety and threat. They are not designed to distinguish fact from fiction. Might this explain the power of fake news, slogans, and symbols? Just think, how does the on-off vagus brake respond to the slogans, build a wall, lock her up, make America great, and they stole the election? How are these slogans interpreted by our survival software, and how does this reverberate on our behavior? Let's now cross the Atlantic. How does the vagus brake react to the Brexit slogans? Take back control, get Brexit done, and the notorious sign on the side of the bus promising that Brexit will bring us better health. Remember, the survival software is concerned with safety and threat and has absolutely no capacity nor interest in distinguishing truth from a lie. Might this help us? Why, about a year ago, mere rumor of toilet paper stockpiling sent us scampering off to the supermarkets seeking toilet roll safety and mindlessly stocking our trolleys with astronomical supplies of absorbent paper. Why was everybody else doing it? Would I be unsafe without it? I'd better get some before stocks run out. So beware of the politicians and the social media platforms. They have learned to hack your vagus brake and influence your behavior by sending signals of safety and security or stoking up fear and threat. Finally, back to Stephanie. I was eventually able to talk with her without her mother being present, and it transpired that about 18 months previously, she had been raped in her halls of residence. She mentioned that her drink had been spiked, and as she was unable to identify who in the party had abused her sexually, without suspects, the college refused to investigate the allegation, and she received repeated threats on social media. She'd attempted to find a way back to safety, but it failed. In addition, her parents had recently undergone a very acrimonious divorce, and she couldn't trust or seek help via her mother or father. She seemed to have reached a point where there was no escape. My conjecture is that, like the mouse, Stephanie could find no escape route and had unwittingly called on her reptilian defense. Her systems had frozen, and this state was manifest by her demeanor and her profound sense of ill health. She was frozen. So the question arises, do we have free will, or are our choices primarily driven by the survival software? I would contend that if we feel safe, we do have some opportunity to exert free will and make decisions. However, in situations where we feel threatened and have no recourse to safety, it's very likely that ancient survival activity will begin to rear its head. So to conclude with, I remind you that Descartes, famous philosopher, trying to understand who we are and what we are, came to the conclusion that I think, therefore I am. In other words, it's top down. Our cognitive forces are the main forces which allow us to respond to the world around us. However, Stephen Porges takes the view that I am, therefore I think. In other words, our innate, quick-acting physiological responses are responsible for what we are, and that our cognitive forces become secondary to our survival instinct.